I, George Herbert Walker Bush.
When George Herbert Walker Bush took the oath of office in 1989, he already had an impressive legacy. World War II hero, Texas oil man, director of the CIA, and vice president. Bush was born in 1924, the son of a wealthy banker who served in the U.S. Senate. On his 18th birthday, he enlisted in the Navy, becoming the youngest fighter pilot in World War II. During an air raid in the Pacific, he was shot down, a rescue famously captured on film.
I knew that if something didn't pick me up, I would be captured.
Shortly after returning from the war, he married Barbara Pierce. They would have 6 children and 17 grandchildren.
I think he's the wisest, smartest, most decent, caring person I know.
What a day, y'all.
In the 60s, Bush turned to politics. He was elected to Congress in 1966 and became a power player in the Republican Party.
Leaving the door open.
In 1980, he ran unsuccessfully against Ronald Reagan for the GOP nomination, but then agreed to be Reagan's running mate. Bush served as Reagan's vice president for 8 years, then was elected the 41st president of the United States.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
During his one term in the White House, Bush managed the end of the Cold War in 1989. He played a key role in the reunification of Germany. The following year, he took on Saddam Hussein for invading Kuwait, launching Operation Desert Storm, the first Gulf War.
A new world order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror.
Bush formed a coalition of 30 nations to liberate Kuwait in just 6 weeks, but he was criticized for not removing Iraq's defiant leader. After the war, the economy slowed down.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
Bush broke that campaign promise and raised taxes. As the economy continued to sink, so did his approval ratings, and in 1992, he lost the election to Bill Clinton. In later years, the former rivals came together to raise millions for victims of the tsunami in Southeast Asia, the earthquake in Haiti, and Hurricane Katrina. In addition to his work with President Clinton, President Bush was known for his 1,000 Points of Light campaign, inspiring Americans to volunteer and serve their communities.
The idea is simple. Just as a sailor can find his way via one shining star, a life can be changed by one dedicated, shining point of light.
Bush remained active during retirement. He even celebrated numerous birthdays by jumping out of a plane, even on his 90th. In his final years, Bush's health deteriorated, and he developed a form of Parkinson's that made it difficult to walk. He was forced to use a wheelchair or motorized scooter to get around, and was hospitalized several times for pneumonia and related lung ailments. His health issues forced him to miss the inauguration of Donald Trump. On his 70th wedding anniversary, he tweeted this photo, writing, "70 years ago this very day, Barbara Pierce of Rye, New York, made me the happiest and luckiest man on earth." The Bushes were the longest married presidential couple in history. He persevered with the help of his beloved wife, Barbara. He was by her side when she passed away on April 17, 2018, at the age of 92. George H.W. Bush will be remembered for his devotion to his family and his country.
And President Bush was honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2011.
He was also honored an honorary knighthood by Queen Elizabeth in 1993, just the 3rd American president to receive the honor.
And the former president died late last night in his Houston home.
Reaction to his death has been pouring in from all over the world. CBS 2's Clark Fouraker is here live with more. Clark?
Yes, Cindy, Andrew, good morning. The tributes keep pouring in, especially as folks on the East Coast here wake up to the news that Mr. Bush has passed. The Bush family posted their statement alongside the announcement of their patriarch's death last night, saying Bush was a man of the highest character and the best dad a son or daughter could ask for. The entire Bush family is deeply grateful for 41's life and love, for the compassion of those who have cared and prayed for Dad, and for the condolences of our friends and fellow citizens. President Trump also tweeted a multi-graph statement saying, in part, through his essential authenticity, disarming wit, and unwavering commitment to faith, family, and country, President Bush inspired generations of his fellow Americans to public service, to be, in his words, 1,000 points of light, illuminating greatness, hope, and opportunity to America, to the world. President Obama also saying America's lost a patriot and humble servant in George Herbert Walker Bush. While our hearts are heavy today, they are also filled with gratitude. Our thoughts are with the entire Bush family tonight. And President Clinton, who, as you just heard, shared a close friendship with Mr. Bush after leaving the Oval, said, "Hillary and I mourn the passing of President George H.W. Bush and give thanks for his great long life of service, love, and friendship. I'm grateful for every minute I spent with him and will always hold our friendship as one of life's greatest gifts." President Bush is survived by 5 children, 17 great-grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren, and 2 of his own siblings. Of course, his wife, First Lady Barbara Bush, died earlier this year. After 73 years of marriage, the family saying funeral arrangements for Mr. Bush will be announced as soon as it's reasonable.